Especially after the Ukraine war. It's his first visit to India. This Modi-Putin summit is less about optics and more about recalibrating a decades-old partnership. Defense, of course, will dominate the agenda. From India's interest in the S-500 missile shield to clarity on the Su-57 next-gen fighter program. Energy, industry, space, agriculture also on the table, with India pushing for long-term oil security and technology. Putin arrives with a string of past praises for India's rise from Chandrayaan-3 to India's economic growth under Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The optics will be unmistakable. His Aurasanath, fortress on wheels, and a multi-layer security ring already deployed. At its heart, India wants firmer defense guarantees and cleaner energy deals. Moscow wants a trusted Asian partner, and the world, especially Europe and the US, will be watching every move closely when it comes to this all-important visit. I'm joined by our guests this afternoon, Ambassador Ashok Sajanar, former diplomat, Lieutenant General Ajinder Singh, former DG Infantry, Professor Anuradha Shenoy, former Dean and Chairperson, Center for Russian and Central Asian Studies, JNU, and Daria, NDTV correspondent, joins me live from Red Square. Daria, I'm going to come to you first. Good afternoon from India. We want to understand from you first up, how is President Putin's India visit being projected in the Russian media as diplomacy or defiance of the West or strategic necessity?
Well, it is a strategic partnership. That's how the Russian president himself has described the relationship between Moscow and New Delhi. And this is the way that the Russian media are portraying this all-important visit. That is also the beefing up of the relationship with the long-standing partner, because Moscow has been saying that its ties with India go back decades, and those are decades of friendly, amicable, and strategically important relationship that the two share. So the Russian president will be in India shortly, and for this visit, Moscow has been preparing for quite some time. They are expecting to make sure that they expand cooperation in different areas, including defense, including military cooperation, but also, obviously, paramount sector for Russia, energy. And they will be trying to make sure that their trade portfolio is much wider than just that, focused on energy.
Is this visit being portrayed domestically as a foreign policy success for President Putin, given the close ties with India, Daria? And it's his first visit to India ever since the Ukraine war.
Well, it is not just a success, it is an absolutely important step in further developing the relationship. We've seen Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi traveling to Russia. Now the Russian president is in India, and Moscow insists that this is very important in terms of the building up of the multipolar world order. Russian president has earlier been saying that Russia and India are close partners. They are dealing on absolutely various international platforms, including BRICS. They are trying to expand their bilateral trade and to make sure that it is conducted in national currencies. He has been speaking recently, suggesting that about 90% of the trade is being conducted in that. And he has been saying that trade turnover could actually increase, including completely different and new spheres where two countries can cooperate. So in Russia, that is seen as a foreign policy success, but also as an all-important step forward, boosting the ties that have always been very important for Moscow.
So does the Kremlin see this visit as a signal that Russia is not diplomatically isolated? Is that the messaging that is also going out at this point with this visit of the Russian president to India?
Well, it doesn't seem to be the case here in Moscow that Russia would have to reassert that it is not isolated. Russia has been insisting it is not isolated for almost 4 years. So in Russia, there is very strong perception that there is no need to reassure that. We have seen the strong international presence in Moscow when Russia was celebrating major events and holding important summits like BRICS summit in Kazan, like the 80th anniversary of the victory of Russia in the World War II. So for Russia, it is just yet another confirmation of that. But obviously, that is sending a signal to the international community that Russia still has a very important role internationally. But for the Russian public domestically, it is not required to be reconfirmed. But obviously, they do welcome Russia diversifying and beefing its ties with the international partners.
So then, Daria, from the Russian perspective, from Kremlin's perspective, why is India especially important for Russia at this moment amid the Ukraine war, the Western isolation? We want to understand the perspective coming from Moscow on this.
Well, for Russia, behind the words of strategic partnership and long-standing alliance with India, there is a very important angle here that is related to energy trade. And Russia has re-diversified its routes of trade in terms of energy resources, and India has become Russia's second largest client. Obviously, this is not an easy way of dealing business at this stage, given the numerous international sanctions, and most recently sanctions imposed by the United States against Russia's two major oil companies, Rosneft and Lukoil. And the Russian president will be trying to make sure that energy keeps flowing, because that is also important for the filling of the Russian budget, that is in turn spending more on the military needs. So definitely for Moscow, that visit is important in terms of building partnership and making sure that current arrangements still stand. They are expecting also to find new ways of dealing with India without the interference of third countries. That has been the position from Moscow. And obviously, there are other areas in which the two countries can cooperate. So those will be explored during this visit. And obviously, the experts have already been working on elaborating how that could proceed. And this visit will be most likely reconfirming those arrangements.
So what are President Putin's top priorities from this India trip, Daria? Defense, energy, diplomacy, geopolitics, and a messaging perhaps going out that we have a great partner in India?
Yeah, altogether, primarily, obviously, energy, defense cooperation as well, with Russia for decades being India's key supplier of defense equipment. We understand that there could be more deals on the S-400 air defense systems, as well as the development of Su-57 fighter jets, as well as the issues related to the nuclear energy, those used for the civilian infrastructure and civilian economy. We also understand that they will be talking about migration. That's another angle where Russia is really willing to expand its cooperation with India. The labor shortage in Russia is about 500,000 people in different areas, and this is exactly where India could be of much synergy to Russia in that sense. So certainly the Russian president will be looking to see support, international one, that is very important, international messaging, especially given that India has been approached by the United States on numerous occasions that are related to how the two are dealing on the international stage.
How crucial is India for Russia's defense exports, Daria, at a time when Western markets are more or less closed?
Well, what Russia is saying is that it is willing to supply to the countries that are interested. Russia has a wide portfolio of different countries where it is supplying its military hardware. So obviously it is important for Russia to keep working with India on that, but also keep in mind that Russia is holding the military operation in Ukraine, and Russia has needs of its own. So it would be on overestimation to say that Russia has many different clients, but obviously Russia would like to remain an important partner of India in that sense.
All right, and how does the Kremlin balance its growing dependence on China with its long-standing strategic ties with India, Daria? It's a fine balance, really, given, the strategic issues with China and India.
Well, Russia has been saying that its relationship with China and its ties with India are different. So we see those very different tracks, but also we see all the three countries cooperated on the platform of BRICS, as well as the international organizations. So for Moscow, it is all important to make sure that its bilateral track with India goes well. And Russia has been saying that it is important that the countries can manage their differences through the use of dialogue. So Russia is expecting that any differences that there could be between its other partners could be resolved by them internationally. In the meantime, Russia will be building mutually beneficial cooperation and partnership with the countries of the world.
Daria, let's just focus to Narendra Modi, India's Prime Minister, as well as Vladimir Putin. We know of the historic ties between the two countries, but how does the media see this growing bonhomie that they've had for so long now, Prime Minister Modi and Vladimir Putin?
Well, we've heard in the media reports how the Russian president was talking about his relationship with India, saying that there is also a very important personal angle in his ties with Narendra Modi, suggesting that that is also special and privileged ties that the two have. They have an opportunity of frank discussions of difficult matters that are on the table, and that is obviously going to impact the overall course of the development of the bilateral relationship with these two countries.
Right. And is there an unease in Moscow about India's deepening partnership with the US and the Quad? You said that in terms of Moscow, they see the Kremlin, they see ties with China as ties with China, ties with India as ties with India. But what about India's ties with the US and the Quad?
Well, Russia says that it is the sovereign matter of India how it deals with its other partners, and Moscow doesn't want to interfere in any affairs that India might have with the United States, because Russia has been saying that its relationship with India should be free from the interference of third countries, and that would be the case also for India when it comes to dealing with the US.
Daria, before I let you go, what would be considered a successful outcome of this visit from the Kremlin's point of view?
Well, it does seem that the figures of the trade balance would be indicative of the success of President Vladimir Putin's trip to India. But obviously, we understand that energy is top of the agenda, and we will be looking at the deals and the arrangements signed during this trip.
Daria, thanks for joining us live from Moscow there. That's the NDTV correspondent Daria bringing us perspective from Moscow just about 5 hours ahead of President Vladimir Putin's visit to the national capital. Every aspect of it, of course, will be covered here on NDTV. Vishal also, I believe, is going to be joining me live now from Bharat Mandapam. If we can cut across to Vishal as well, who has been tracking all the developments that are taking place ahead of the core meetings that will happen between, of course, the Russian president as well as the Prime Minister and representatives on both sides. Vishal, over to you. What's happening behind you?
Well, at least 1,000 people have congregated here from across India and Russia. We'll see Vladimir Putin here tomorrow when he comes and meets the Indian business leaders here. I'll show you what kind of arrangements have been made to welcome him. Today also there's a session going on. There will be a session going on around 2:30. Delegates from both the countries have assembled here. You can see at least 500 to 600 people are already sitting here. We will have some senior ministers from the Russian side who will also visit today. They'll have a joint session. They'll take questions from the press. Then only we'll get to know what kind of discussions they've had. But the main area of focus will definitely be how to, improve the Russian side when it comes to having skilled workers, because it's been widely reported that the Russian side lacks when it comes to the skilled workers component. So that will be one of the main, areas of discussion as far as the business forum is concerned. Also, how to improve both sides' economic ties. There is a trade imbalance when it comes to the Russian side. It's heavily, bent towards the Russian side because the trade has reached an all-time high of almost $70 billion. But it's, as I mentioned, quite bent towards the Russian side. And that's mostly owing to the fact that India has imported a lot more oil from the Russian side in the last 3-4 years.
Right.
So that will also figure in the discussion for sure when both the leaders leaders meet. So these are some of the things that will definitely be talked about.
All right, Vishal, we keep coming back to you for more, but I want to once again reintroduce our guests this afternoon on the special coverage. We have Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar, former diplomat, who's been patiently standing by. Thank you so much, sir. We first want to get that report in from Moscow. We also have Lieutenant General Rajinder Singh, former DG Infantry, and Professor Anuradha Chinoy as well, who will be joining us live. But first, let me go to you, Ambassador. According to you, what is the core diplomatic signal of President Putin choosing India for a high-profile visit at this moment?
Yeah, thank you very much, Vedika, for having me. It's a very significant visit, as you've been discussing with Daria and with your colleague Vishal. You know, as you mentioned, this is the first time that Prime Minister Modi will be receiving President Putin in India after the advent of the Russia-Ukraine conflict in February 22. Now, we have also seen that President Putin doesn't travel all that much to different parts of the country, particularly over the last 3-4 years. He's not been going. He goes either to the former Soviet Union countries, Central Asia, Belarus, etc., etc. He goes to China, goes to North Korea. He goes to, Saudi Arabia. He'd gone once. But otherwise, all the other major international meetings, congregations, whether it was G20 in Bali in 22, or to India, or to South Africa or Brazil, he's not been going to any one of those. So I think this is very, very special that he is coming here to India. And that is definitely, as a result, meaning this is signaling to the world that this is a strong relationship, this is a strong partnership. And the manner in which India has conducted itself has a huge role to play in that, because notwithstanding huge pressures coming from the West, India has not criticized or condemned Russia directly for the aggression against Ukraine, although we have said that, the principles and charter of the United Nations in terms of preservation of territorial integrity and sovereignty, they need to be respected. And Prime Minister Modi was the first one to tell Putin in September 22 in Samarkand, on the sidelines of the SCO summit, that this is not an era of war, and that dialogue and diplomacy should be used. No resolution of any conflict can be found on the battlefield. So Prime Minister Modi, India's stance has been very, very clear. But on the bilateral, so, there are both global geopolitical implications of the visit. Very quickly, I'll finish here, Vedika.
Yes, Ambassador.
And there are bilateral elements of the implications, ramifications of the visit.
Yes.
And in the bilateral context, in addition to nuclear power, defense, energy, etc., I think how to upscale the trade in terms of our exports to Russia, that is going to be a very important element. There is going to be discussion on India is negotiating entry, having an FTA, the Eurasian Economic Union, and also in terms of the mobility of Indian talent, skilled and unskilled workers to Russia. I think these are important areas.
All right. And I'm going to come back to you, Ambassador, but Professor Chinoy, thank you for joining us this afternoon here on Breaking Ground and on this special coverage. I want to understand from you, President Putin's India visit comes at a time when the Ukraine war, of course, is ongoing and there's deep global polarization. How significant is this visit, ma'am, in today's geopolitical climate?
I think it's very significant, one, because both India and Russia are invested in constructing a multipolar international system, and there is a kind of a pressure to retain the old unipolarity, as you can see from many of the Western countries. But Russia and India have been firm on it, and they are backed by most of the global South on this. Second, global supply chains have been disrupted because of the US's tariff and their whole methodology of trying to reshore manufacturing in a forced way into the US, and therefore blocking other countries. And so India has suffered from these tariffs, as you know, 50% tariffs, 25% additional because of its energy partnership with Russia. But India has shown resilience. And I think the Russians and President Putin recognizes that. It has been like a bailout for the Russian economy to some extent. Of course, there are others also, like China, Indonesia, and others who take the energy. But India has been a special partner at a very difficult time for Russia, which they see as an existential crisis. They see their war, but it seems also that this war is slowly winding down because of Russian victories all along their line of
the border, yes,
on their border, on the Ukraine-Russian border. And there are talks ongoing between the US and Russia, and there is an attempt to break this by President Trump. Of course, there are a lot of issues and complexities involved, and we don't know which way it will ultimately go because war has its own logic.
Yes.
But at the same time, I think, and it seems that Russia's victory, at least on the ground level, is clear. Mm-hmm. And so President Putin is really coming at a time of two strategic victories from the side of the global south. A strategic victory in terms of the tariff wars have not succeeded. And second, that the proxy war against Russia has also not succeeded.
All right, and Lieutenant General Rajinder Singh, I'm going to come to you in a moment from now. We're going to talk all things military. But before that, we have a report for our viewers. Of course, President Vladimir Putin is expected in about 5 hours from now, and there's a determination to deepen ties between India and Moscow. Putin will be here for the 23rd India-Russia annual summit. Both the countries now aim to expand bilateral trade to about $100 billion by 2030. And defense, viewers, is at the center of this meet ahead of Putin's visit. Watch this report.
A crown jewel of Russian weaponry in the Indian arsenal, the S-400, used in combat for the first time this year during Operation Sindoor. The roar of the missile sets an unmissable mood. As the Russian president arrives in India, the focus is largely economy and trade. But defense and weapons are a permanent sweetener in this relationship. Putin's visit this week injects fresh momentum into one of the world's most enduring strategic partnerships. Putin isn't coming empty-handed. The Russian delegation arrives armed with proposals that could reshape India's future military power. Co-production of the S-500 missile defense system, Russia's most advanced shield against ballistic missiles and hypersonic threats. And a pitch of Su-57 fifth-generation stealth fighters, a jet Russia believes can be the spearhead of India's air dominance in the 2030s. No deals will be signed during Putin's visit, but the flavor is clear. Russia is still India's #1 supplier of weapons and military hardware. The Indian Air Force remains the heaviest operator of Russian aviation outside Russia itself. The flagship Sukhoi 30 MKI air dominance fighter is the Indian Air Force's mainstay combat aircraft. Add to that the MiG-29s, IL-76 transports and Mi-17 helicopters, and the Russian imprint is unmissable. The Indian Army's brute force is still powered by Russian platforms, from T-90 and T-72 main battle tanks to BMP-2 infantry fighting vehicles to the Smerch rocket systems that form the backbone of India's long-range artillery punch. And at sea, the Russian connection runs deep, from aircraft carrier INS Vikramaditya to the super silent Kilo-class submarines, to the The famous BrahMos, named after the Brahmaputra and Moskva rivers, is a shining symbol of the Indian-Russian partnership. It was this weapon, fired from the air, that brought devastation to Pakistan's air bases during Operation Sindoor. With shifting geopolitics, India has diversified its import sources, becoming a major customer of US weapons in recent years. But Putin's visit could reaffirm who continues to rule the roost. An NDTV Bureau report.
Before I go to Lieutenant General Singh, I want to bring to you some details that you must know of when it comes to the imports being made from Russia when it comes to military equipment. As you can see, in 2020, we were high on aircraft. And then now, in 2024, 65.7% of the imports in terms of arms is ships. Interesting to see that change. It was first aircraft, in between it was missiles, and now it's ships. Going to Lieutenant General Singh at this point. Sir, how critical is it when it comes to India's overall military preparedness compared to a decade ago when it comes to the imports that we are seeing from Russia?
Vedika, I think before I answer that question, there are one or two things which I would like to make.
Of course, go ahead.
And one is that as far as the defense cooperation is concerned between India and Russia, that is actually the core part of the relationship between our two countries. And this has assumed even more importance after the recent operations in Op Sindoor, where many of these weapon systems, which were jointly produced with Russian help, have performed fabulously, like BrahMos missile and others. Thirdly, is the issue as to what are we looking at as far as our defense needs are concerned. Today, we are looking at Atmanirbhar Bharat. We are looking at Make in India program. We are looking at transfer of technology. The Western world, the United States, is not willing to give us this. So the best friend that we have as far as transfer of technology is concerned is Russia. And that is why this relationship between our two countries assumes even more importance. Third is that our relationship with Russia is not only to fulfill our needs, it is also a signal to the Western world and to the rest of the world of our strategic autonomy. In our relations with all the countries, we would like to have relationship based on our own interest. Whichever is the relationship which suits our interests the best, we will adopt it. We will not do it at the diktats of others. This has been our core point of relationship even earlier. This has further got strengthened after Mr. Modi came to power. And our recent stand on oil imports and all from Russia is actually a case in point. Now, coming on to this particular visit, the focus is going to be, as far as the military cooperation is concerned, it is going to be on Russian technology transfer. We are fully aware that India has got to do a tense tightrope walk in this particular visit, because a large number of countries in the Western world, including 3 of their diplomats recently, have written editorials criticizing this particular visit, which is basically a signal to India that they don't quite like it. But having said that, as far as India-Russia relationship is concerned, this is as strong as ever. And as far as our various points and agenda are concerned, we are going to have discussions on accelerating the nuclear power plant, We are going to focus on defense and trade, as Ambassador has mentioned. And we are going to also be discussing the trade and oil imports. As far as our weapons, I'll just take 1 minute.
Yes.
As far as our weapon systems are concerned, Air Force is looking at further strengthening S-400 air defense system and probably getting some more of those. Joint production of S-500 anti-missile system would also probably be discussed. Talks on production of Su-57 stealth fighters could also be discussed in this. And as far as Navy is concerned, we are going to talk about frigates, which you have mentioned in your report.
Yes.
Besides the Chakra 3 third nuclear power attack submarine that India is currently leasing from Russia.
All right.
As far as army is concerned, the list is enormous.
All right.
Basically, it relates to tanks and the AK-203 rifles.
Okay, sir. But I want to shift focus now to trade as well. Despite shifting global alliances and rising geopolitical headwinds, India's ties with Russia are not just steady, they're really expanding, from discounted oil imports that have reshaped India's energy basket to cutting-edge defense deals and a bold push on nuclear power and connectivity through the INSTC. This is a partnership that is transforming, and this report breaks down the numbers.
India's trade with Russia is at its highest ever, nearly 12 times what it was a decade ago. Fueled largely by India's purchases of discounted Russian crude. At the same time, Indian companies are pushing deeper into Russia's market with pharmaceuticals, machinery, food products, and IT services. Oil remains the biggest pillar. November imports hit a 5-month high even as Washington tightened sanctions on Russian producers.
We are not the biggest purchasers of Russian oil, that is China. We are not the biggest purchasers of Russian LNG. We are a country where actually the Americans said for the last few years that we should do everything to stabilize the world energy markets, including buying oil from Russia. Incidentally, we also buy oil from America, and that amount has been increasing.
Both sides now aim for $100 billion by 2030. Key to that target, new connectivity. The international north-south transport corridor is increasingly moving cargo at scale. And the planned Chennai-Vladivostok Sea Link aims to connect India's east coast directly to Russia's far east. Civil nuclear cooperation remains strong. Rosatom continues supplying fuel and technology for projects like the Kudankulam plant, a partnership Russia says India chose when other countries hesitated. Defense ties, despite India's diversification push, remain central. From submarines to air defense systems, Russian equipment still forms a large part of India's arsenal. Joint drills and upgrades to the Su-30 fleet keep the partnership active. India and Russia are also in talks to finalize a major deal for 5 more S-400 regiments, which would bring India's total to 10, one of its biggest long-range air defense deployments. From crude to nuclear fuel, from defense hardware to new transport corridors, the India-Russia economic story remains broad and resilient. And despite geopolitical pressure, both sides appear determined to deepen a relationship shaped by long-term strategic interests. Bureau Report for NDTV World.
All right, so the big story remains the visit of the Russian president to India. To my guests, apologies, we're running out of time, but we've heard your perspectives and we will come back to you once we have the president in the country. A lot of perspectives welcomed on this, on the experts joining us all day today. But let's also talk more about the imports and exports when it comes to Russia and India. I'm first going to put up the trade exports. Mineral fuels, oils and waxes, fertilizers, animal vegetable fats, project goods as well as other precious and semi-precious stones. That's data that we're getting to you from the government. That's extremely important when it comes to the imports and exports. These are the exports that we're talking about. Let's go to the next page now and talk about the imports as well. Extremely important when it comes to Russia and imports, because it's not oil as we all assume it's going to be the biggest import in terms of what we're getting in from them. It's pharmaceutical products, but the big one being nuclear reactors, machinery and mechanical appliances, organic chemical, electrical machinery and sound recorders and seafood, but the top one there being nuclear reactors, machinery and mechanical appliance. All right, let's talk more about the two leaders. Modi-Putin meet will be as much about the bromance as it will be about the big bang deals. The Prime Minister and the Russian President share a great rapport. In fact, last time the two met at the BRICS summit in Tianjin in China, Putin offered PM Modi a ride in his car.
It was an extraordinary sight. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin spending 45 minutes together inside a limousine, talking one-on-one, away from aides, cameras and protocol. The leaders have showcased their bonhomie time and again. Last year, Putin personally took the driver's seat, giving PM Modi a ride in his electric car, a rare gesture between world leaders. As Putin arrives in New Delhi for the 2025 summit, these moments of unusual informality highlight a friendship that has shaped one of India's most enduring strategic relationships. The Modi-Putin relationship has always had a personal touch, an ease and warmth that goes beyond the formalities of diplomacy. Despite global tensions, particularly over Ukraine, India and Russia have kept their relationship steady. New Delhi continues strategic engagement with Moscow. The latter, meanwhile, repeatedly describes India as a trusted partner. From defense production and nuclear energy to oil imports and space cooperation, the strategic pillars remain strong. The unmistakable comfort between Modi and Putin has added a unique dimension, a bromance as some headlines call it. From a 45-minute limousine conversation to a personal EV ride, Modi and Putin continue a diplomatic friendship unlike any other on the global stage. Bureau Report, NDTV World.
And many times in the past, you've heard from Vladimir Putin and him commending Prime Minister Modi as well as India. Let's begin with some of those quotes that we have put out for you. In September in 2019, you had Putin say that India-Russia ties are based on friendship and mutual benefit. And then after that also in 2023, he did commend the Chandrayaan mission, calling it proof of India's impressive scientific progress. In Jan 2020, on Republic Day in 2024, you had Putin also say that India is demonstrating highest economic growth rates globally. So very often you've heard from President Putin commend both India as well as Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who he calls a close friend. In July 2024, Putin said Modi devoted his life to serving people. And then again in 2024 in December, he said investment in India is profitable. You've seen the imports and exports figures also showing that it's not only strategic ties but economic ties also between the two countries, which is of prime importance to both the leaders. And then in 2025, Modi, very wise leader who puts nation first, is something that Vladimir Putin has said. All right, we also want to talk about how Putin is seen as this viral sensation because of his love for dogs and the outdoors. There are many images of the man that have led to it going absolutely viral on the internet. Here's a report.
He's not just one of the most powerful men in the world, but also the most viral. Breaking the internet one picture at a time. One of the most iconic photos and one of the first shirtless images to nearly break the internet is of a shirtless Putin in August 2009 riding a horse while on vacation in southern Siberia. The same year, he was also photographed sunbathing, fishing and hiking. Then came this bare-chested photograph of the Russian leader taking a dip in the frigid cold waters of Lake Seliger, located about 5 hours northwest of Moscow. Putin was celebrating the Epiphany, which in Eastern Christianity commemorates the baptism of Jesus Christ. When not outdoors, Putin loves to chill with his dogs. He has 3, including an Akita breed dog, Yumi, Buffy, a Karakakan dog gifted to him in November 2010 by then Bulgarian Prime Minister. A pair of dogs was also personally gifted to him by Kim Jong-un. Turkmenistan president also presented a shepherd dog to Putin, as did his Kyrgyz counterpart. Then there is buzz about his face. The Russian president's smooth forehead, rosy cheeks and wrinkle-free eye area have triggered buzz about his use of Botox. The rumors of his Botox use first emerged in 2012 when he showed up to a meeting in Kiev sporting a massive blue and yellow bruise around his eye. Putin's spokesman was forced to issue denials. Reports suggest that when Putin travels abroad, his waste is collected by his security team, sealed and sent back to Russia to prevent foreign intelligence from analyzing his health. His bodyguards reportedly stay with him even during private moments, including bathroom visits. NDTV Bureau Report.
And with that, we're going to be slipping to a short break. I'll be back with more in moments from now. Stay tuned.
सैल्यूट है जी, आप देश की रक्षा में जान लगा देते हैं और आप घर घर में तार लगाते हैं जी। ई बीम टेक्नोलॉजी से बनी, न जले न पिघले, सबकी रक्षा करे।
हम सरहद पर लोगों की रक्षा करते हैं और आप देश के अंदर। सैल्यूट तो बनता है जी।
अपार अणुशक्ति फायर प्रोटेक्ट वायर, अपार देश का तार।
Front lines of Kargil, the fury of Operation Sindhu,
so many attacks,
the chaos and cries of disaster zones, to fighter jet cockpits, and the world's most defining interviews.
It's incredible.
He has seen history break, live, unfiltered. 20,000 hours of live broadcasting.
Welcome to Left, Right and Centre.
Hard facts.
War-struck country.
Hard questions.
In the Ukraine.
30 years of trust.
In the Kargil area. North Ukraine. In France. In Italy. At Srinagar. Vishnu Shom for NDTV.
Vishnu Shom. Only on NDTV.
Across the country.
He has tracked the pulse of power from Washington to Korea. Witnessed history being made in global capitals and conflict zones. Brought clarity to complex issues of national security and international affairs. Aditya Raj Kaul, covering international affairs like no one else. Only on NDTV network.
The best app to use is the NDTV app.
दुनिया भर में जब भी भारतीय मीडिया की चर्चा होती है तो एनडीटीवी सबसे पहले जिक्र में आता है।
मैं आपका बात से सहमत हूं, उल्टे हम भी जब विदेश जाते हैं, the best app to use is the NDTV app.
21 days in Kashmir. People have bombarded me, friends, with requests for an unfiltered list of things I saw and observed on the ground.
Very special ground report from the line of control. There were some children who've lost limbs in the shelling.
They are now India's smallest but possibly the most powerful crime family. Cough syrup has killed at least 25 children. Gaikwad साहब, ऐसे मत कीजिए।
Suddenly people are wondering about the weaponization of India-Pakistan cricket.
We live and breathe elections. You will not believe your eyes or ears when I show you what I'm about to do.
And for a country that has fought so many wars in the mountains and at high altitude,
We're standing on the Indian Navy's newest warship.
The line of control, Shiv Arun, NDTV.
What seems settled for me is unfinished business. So I rewind, I pause, I reflect, I dig until what's buried stands up to be counted. Breaking ground, not just headlines, the meaning behind them. This is Breaking Ground with me, Vedika Sood.
Namaste, India. As you all know, I've been traveling around the world with my music. But this one is truly special. Something that's India. You all must have seen the magic that was created in Kun Faya Kun. Now it's your chance to experience it with me. So book your tickets from District app and together let's create harmony of hearts. See you, Delhi.
pulling us into this country.
They argue, I conclude. They deflect, I drill down. This isn't a free-for-all. It's a reckoning. No filler, no fog. Only the facts and where they lead. Every night at 9, the case closes because the buck stops here.
I don't sugarcoat. I shoot straight and tell you stories the way they need to be told.
We now have a response from a BJP MP and former Foreign Secretary of India, Harshvardhan Shringla, who is responding to Rahul Gandhi's claim that opposition leaders are never called by the Modi administration when there are these top dignitaries and leaders of nations who are visiting India. Here's what he has said.
There is no hard and fast rule. It depends, on the time of the dignitary concerned and his inclination. And obviously, such visits have a very tight schedule also. I think there is no necessity that he meets X or Y or Z. It depends on as I said, on the time and inclination. But what is important is that the principal should meet, because he should meet the Honorable President of India. He should meet, obviously, the Prime Minister, and President Putin will meet. Beyond that, I cannot say about anything else.
Aishwarya, who spoke with Mr. Shringla then, now joins me live. Aishwarya, time constraints being quoted also as the reason for no further interactions because there is a tight schedule that Vladimir Putin is going to be on?
Well, clearly, it is no protocol that Harsh Shringla, former Foreign Secretary to India, clearly mentioned that there is no protocol that a leader of opposition or of the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha or the opposition leaders of the country usually or has foundation to meet any state guest that arrives in the country. It is all depends on the timings of the guest because these visits are very much time constrained. They are very much, within the limits of meeting people and to attend important functions. More important and principal should be to meet the state heads that include Prime Minister of the country and President of the country. So that is under the protocol, but certainly meeting the leader of opposition of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha or the opposition leaders is not something which comes under foundation. So clearly there what Rahul Gandhi has claimed earlier, that it is government which is not letting the leader of opposition meet these foreign guests is something which falls flat. And also, the major point that Rahul Gandhi raised, that it is insecurity of the government, to which many BJP leaders stated that we don't have any insecurity from Rahul Gandhi because he has lost almost 90% of elections in the last few years.
Aishwarya, thanks for joining me live there. Well, just ahead of the president's visit of Russia, Vladimir Putin to India, Congress MP and leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi has leveled a big charge against the centre. Rahul Gandhi says that the government is barring foreign leaders from meeting the leader of opposition, and even goes on to say there is a sense of insecurity. The BJP there has hit back. Listen in to Rahul Gandhi's comment.
जनरली सरकार की पॉलिसी है, नॉर्मली ट्रेडिशन होता है कि एलओपी के साथ जो भी बाहर से आते हैं उनकी मीटिंग होती है। ये वाजपेयी जी के टाइम होता था, मनमोहन सिंह जी के टाइम होता था, ये ट्रेडिशन रहा है। बट आजकल क्या होता है कि जो फॉरेन डिग्नेटरीज आते हैं या जब मैं कहीं बाहर जाता हूं तो सरकार उनको सजेस्ट करती है कि एलओपी से नहीं मिलना चाहिए। तो ये इनकी पॉलिसी है, ये हर बार करते हैं। जब मैं बाहर जाता हूं ये करते हैं, जब लोग यहाँ आते हैं मैं करता हूं। हमें मैसेज मिलता है कि हमें बताया गया है कि सरकार हमसे कहती है कि आपसे नहीं मिलना है। सरकार नहीं चाहती कि ऑपोजिशन के लोग बाहर के लोगों से मिले।
जब राहुल गांधी को देश के लोकतंत्र पे प्रश्न खड़ा करना होता है तो विदेश में जाके करते रहते हैं, फिर यहाँ भी किरकिरी करने थोड़े देना है। उनको ये समझ में नहीं आता है, सीरियस है ये नहीं है, ना पार्टी के अंदर सीरियस है, ना देश के अंदर सीरियस है, ना अपने कैरियर के प्रति सीरियस है। जाते हैं सोच के कुछ और बोलने के लिए, बोल जाते हैं कुछ और।
नहीं, लेकिन ये कह रहे हैं कि सालों से ये परंपरा रही है कि जब भी कोई विदेश का राष्ट्राध्यक्ष आता है तो मिलने दिया जाता है विपक्ष के नेता को। किस बात से डर रही है सरकार? ये
आज तक बता दीजिए कोई दूसरे नेता का नाम जो जाके विदेश में भारत के लोकतंत्र को कोसा हो।
And the countdown to the big Putin visit has begun. Of course, it will be our top focus all day here on NDTV. But up next is Southern View with my colleagues down south. Stay tuned.
I just feel very privileged in the film industry, an industry that I'm extremely proud of.
I'm honored to receive this prestigious award.
I feel overwhelmed that the NDTV has chosen me for this very special award.
Thank you so very much. This means a lot to me.
It's a great honor and a great privilege.
Really blessed to get this, and I'm really happy.
This is one of the few moments I'm going to be humble, so please record this properly, guys.
आज का दिन सबसे पहले जो फुट सोल्जर्स, जो प्रिजाइडिंग ऑफिसर्स और जो टीम है उनको सेलिब्रेट करने का है।
And the NDTV Indian of the Year Award 2025 goes to
NDTV Indian of the Year 2025 19 दिसंबर सिर्फ NDTV नेटवर्क पर।
Two world leaders, one crucial meet. Putin says Namaste India. The bonhomie, the Big Bang deals.
भारत और रूस हमेशा कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर चले।
Strategic shifts and the global impact. NDTV tracks the high-stakes handshake. Modi-Putin summit on NDTV 24/7.
Front lines of Kargil, the fury of Operation Sindhu,
so many attacks,
the chaos and cries of disaster zones, to fighter jet cockpits, and the world's most defining interviews.
It's incredible.
He has seen history break, live, unfiltered. 20,000 hours of live broadcasting.
Welcome to Left, Right and Center.
Hard facts.
War-struck country.
Hard questions.
In the Ukraine.
30 years of trust.
In the Kargil area. North Ukraine. In France. In Italy. At Srinagar. Vishnu Shom for NDTV.
Vishnu Shom. Only on NDTV.
Across the country.
He has tracked the pulse of power from Washington to Korea. witnessed history being made in global capitals and conflict zones, brought clarity to complex issues of national security and international affairs. Aditya Rajkol, covering international affairs like no one else, only on NDTV network.
The best app to use is the NDTV app.
दुनिया भर में जब भी भारतीय मीडिया की चर्चा होती तो एनडीटीवी सबसे पहले जिक्र में आता है।
मैं आपका बात से सहमत हूं, उल्टे हम भी जब विदेश जाते हैं, the best app to use is the NDTV app.
21 days in Kashmir. People have bombarded me, friends, with requests for an unfiltered list of things I saw and observed on the ground.
Very special ground report from the line of control. There were some children who've lost limbs in the shelling.
They're now India's smallest but possibly the most powerful crime family. Cough syrup has killed at least 25 children. Gaikwad sahab, aise mat kijiye. Suddenly people are wondering about the weaponization of India-Pakistan cricket. We live and breathe elections. You will not believe your eyes or ears when I show you what I'm about to do.
And for a country that has fought so many wars in the mountains and at high altitude.
We're standing on the Indian Navy's newest warship.
The line of control, Shiv Arur, NDTV.
What seems settled for me is unfinished business. So I rewind, I pause, I reflect, I dig until what's buried stands up to be counted. Breaking ground, not just headlines, the meaning behind them. This is Breaking Ground with me, Vedika Sood.
Namaste, India. As you all know, I've been traveling around the world with my music. But this one is truly special. Something that's India. You all must have seen the magic that was created in Kun Fayakun. Now it's your chance to experience it with me. So book your tickets from District app and together let's create harmony of hearts. See you, Delhi.
Pulling us into this country.
They argue, I conclude. They deflect, I drill down. This isn't a free-for-all. It's a reckoning. No filler, no fog. Only the facts and where they lead. Every night at 9, the case closes because the buck stops here.
I don't sugarcoat.
Hello viewers, welcome to NDTV's Southern Show. In this segment, we'll bring all the updates across the southern India. We're joined by Sam Daniel from Chennai, Uma Sudhir from Hyderabad and Ritu from Bengaluru. Let's begin the segment with one important story from Tamil Nadu, that is also from Madurai Tirupparangundram. Madurai Tirupparangundram is very special place for unity in diversity, as Tirupparangundram Hill has a dargah and also it paves a way for a temple also. But there was a controversy erupts following there was a chaotic situation and like a riot-like situation yesterday when following a petition which was filed by who claimed to be a devotee. He asked that the Tirupparangundram Hill, where the lamp, usually Kartigai Deepam lamp would be lightened up, he asked that the lighten up should be happened in the top of the hill, which is he called that as an ancient pillar called the Ptuin. But HRNC department, which is the temple administration and dargah administration, opposed the move. They argue that that is not a practice for more than a century. The Kartigai Deepam is being lightened up in another location in a midway of the hillock, which is near Uchipilayar Koil. However, Madurai bench of Madras High Court ordered that, saying that by quoting various Sangam literature, he said that by quoting 1923 verdict, he mentioned that except the dargah portion administration and steps toward the Dargah. All other portions of the hill belongs to the temple. So this year Kartikeya Deepam should be lightened up in the top of the hill and also in the historical ancient place also. But however, yesterday administration failed to do that, which created a protest in the Tirupparankunram hill by 6 p.m. There was a chaotic situation. Even Hindutva organization held protest, raised slogan against the temple administration. There was scuffle broken out between the police officials and HR and Hindutva organization and even a few BJP cadre. And there was immediately Madurai district collector imposed 144 section. There was a huge police officials and police personnel deployed in the region, and they controlled the situation there. Meanwhile, the petitioner filed a contempt of court with the Madurai bench of Madras High Court, saying that why HRNC department failed to follow the court order. Then the court immediately gave an order saying that the petitioner should be allowed to light the lamp in the top of the hill. Along with he also ordered to CIS of officials. And then the government also filed an appeal petition. The hearing is still going. Hearing almost over. We are expecting order very shortly. Let's listen to the reaction. Various parties. There was a political war of words between DMK and BJP. Let's listen to the reactions.
Nobody is above law. When the High Court has given a very clean order, a judgment that the lamp should be lit there, because based on several judgments, this was done. We have to understand this. There was no objection from any Muslim outfits or any Muslim organizations. But wantedly, intentionally, government, in order to support, in the name of supporting Muslims, the government unnecessarily intervened here, and they have taken objection to the High Court's order. It is a constitutional breakdown.
DMK, the elected government, rather than playing the role of a moderator and ensuring peace and harmony among religion, is playing the role of religious divide in the state of Tamil Nadu. It's so unfortunate. The custodian of peace, the custodian of law and order is acting at the interest of someone to please someone. It clearly indicates that DMK has started to play vote bank politics based on religion, based on caste. It's really unfortunate, and this incompetence of this government is going to cost big in the upcoming elections. This is highly condemnable.
There are people who want to create trouble between the Hindus and Muslims here in the state. The BJP is trying to create all kind of trouble among these people. So we want something to happen peacefully, without any problem. But what the Supreme Court had said is right. But still, there are people who want to create trouble using this. The trouble was recently created by BJP. That is why we are thinking. Otherwise, you know what BJP will do. What had happened earlier in Coimbatore and other places. They are most mischievous party. They want to divide people on caste religious lines and create a fight between these two groups.
So, of course, war of words between DMK and BJP continues over the Tirupparankunram hill. BJP calls this the DMK government acting against the Hindu sentiment. DMK gave counter saying that they are not against Hindus, but they are protecting the communal harmony in the state. So, that's the story from Tamil Nadu. Moving on to Bengaluru, we have Ritu from Bengaluru. Over to you, Ritu.
Thank you, Vijay. There in Tamil Nadu, you see the war of words only seems to be escalating. But here in Karnataka, the game of throne is still on. The silent whispers about the CM chair refuses to die down in the state, wherein we did see how that the Deputy CM DK Shivakumar has basically now reiterated, saying that he was in Delhi to attend a private event and he had nothing to do with the political meets over there. Now, of course, all that curiosity was on because he did halt there for a night. Now, whether he would be able to really seek a time of any of the senior leaders therein from the high command to meet them and discuss this whole matter was the kind of curiosity that one really had it. But however, now the Deputy CM DK Shivakumar has come out to say that it was only the private event that he had to go and attend, and also certain party arrangements, protest arrangements that needs to be done as well to provide a proper accommodation. That's the reason why Deputy CM was in Delhi, but still all eyes on both Deputy CM and the Chief Minister of when they would really be making an en route to Delhi basically. That needs to be seen. But more importantly, you see, you also have the IT Minister Priyank Kharge now in a silent whisper saying that if there is a necessity, then in a necessity that, the High Command will intervene. If not, so far in the breakfast meeting that both the leaders have really had it, the matter has come to a rest, but that only time will tell us. But here are the reactions that you need to listen from, basically from the Deputy CM and IT Minister. Listen in.
Only marriage. Only marriage.
There is no signal. Signal has been very clear.